This is a 16th scale Traxxas slash 4x4, and this is a 10th scale Traxxas slash 4x4. And today I'm going to show you some of the pros and cons of each, and hopefully help you decide which one you should buy. So the first thing is price. At the time of filming this video, the mini slash comes in at $200, the 10th scale 4x4 comes in at $300, and the brushless 10th scale 4x4 is $400. Traxxas do also offer a two-wheel drive version of the 10th scale slash with both brushed and brushless electronics, but the mini slash only comes in four-wheel drive with brushed electronics. My 10th scale slash here is a 4x4 with brushless electronics. Other than that, under the body, there's nothing too fancy about the layout of it. It's pretty standard. All the parts are very high quality though, and it's very easy to work on. My mini slash here is obviously a 4x4 with brushed electronics because that's all that it comes in. This is not the original motor. This one doesn't have any real performance benefits or anything like that. It's just half the price as the replacement for the stock motor, and I'm curious to see how long it'll last. So far it's doing pretty good. Now, unlike the 10th scale slash, this mini slash actually has a pretty cool design that's not used in too many other trucks. It's not totally unique, but there are some pretty cool things about it. One of the really cool things about this truck that you probably noticed are these onboard shocks. They use these rockers here and some extra push rods, and they work amazingly. I've never had any problems with them, and they look pretty sweet, so I can't complain. Also, in the way of layout on this truck, everything is crammed together pretty tight here. You do have room for an extra servo right there, and if we look on the side here, they made a great use of the space by putting the battery compartment down there. There is also room for another battery on this side. If you upgrade this truck to brushless, you can run two batteries at the same time for extra power. Other than that, nothing too crazy. It's a solid little truck. I want to talk a little bit about the pros and cons of each of these trucks, starting with the mini slash here. The main thing with this truck is the size. It's super tiny, so you can drive it in smaller places, like even indoors. You can store it easier. You can bring it places more easily, like if you're going on vacation or something, you can just chuck it in your backpack. Those are all things that you don't get with the bigger trucks. But of course, it is significantly slower than the big trucks. It can't handle as much rough terrain, and they're not allowed on most RC tracks. Now for the 10th scale slash, it's kind of just flipping the pros and cons from the mini slash. Obviously it's bigger, so it can handle more rough terrain, bigger jumps, stuff like that. It's a lot faster than the mini slash, and of course it will be allowed on any 10th scale RC track, which is pretty nice. And if you go to any just regular public 10th scale track, you will see a ton of slashes there because they're just so good. Of course, as a side effect of all those things, you need a little bit more room to store it. You can't take it as many places as easily, and you definitely can't drive it inside. Now, like I said earlier, the 10th scale slash is extremely easy to work on, unlike the mini slash, which I find quite difficult to work on. Everything's so crammed together, there's not a lot of room to work with, and it's just a little bit more of a complex design. So if you are worried about space and you don't have a big workbench, or you don't have any workbench, and you don't want to take up your whole kitchen table while you're working on a car, I would probably lean a little bit more towards the mini slash. But if you have plenty of room to store and work on your trucks, then I would lean towards the 10th scale slash because it is so much easier to work on. While on the subject of working on these trucks, I want to talk about spare parts and upgrades. For the 10th scale slash, because it's such a popular truck, so many companies make parts and upgrades for this thing. You can literally find them anywhere for all sorts of different prices. Just remember, especially when buying parts for these trucks, if you buy cheap, you buy twice. So if you want good quality parts for your truck that's going to last a while, it's usually better to buy from a more well-known, popular brand. My personal favorite is probably Proline. They are a bit more on the pricey side, but I don't think I've ever broken a part that I got from them. There are also tons of upgrades you can get for this truck. Pretty much every single part on this truck, you could buy an aftermarket upgrade for it. So if you plan on upgrading or modding up your truck, this is definitely a good option. Now for the mini slash, these cars are still super popular, but not quite as much as the 10th scales. So some spare parts are going to be a little bit harder to find, and there's not quite as many upgrades for them. Now from what I've seen in the way of spare parts and upgrades for this truck, most of them, not all of them, but most of them are from off-brand sketchy companies. And of course, if you buy one of those, they're probably not going to be the best thing in the world. So again, if you're looking to upgrade or mod out your truck, the 10th scale is probably going to be a better option for you. Now, in terms of durability, these trucks are both absolute tanks. I mean, the Slash is just kind of known for its durability, and there is no exception to that with the Mini Slash. Especially if you leave the brushed electronics in this truck like I've done, and you don't make it go crazy fast, this thing will almost never break. The only things I've ever had to replace on this truck were the tires, which are just a usual wear and tear thing. Those are gonna go bad after a while. I've also replaced the servo and the motor. The motor, it just makes sense. That's pretty much just another wear and tear thing. It's a brushed motor, so it's not gonna last forever. But those are the only things I've ever replaced on this truck, which is kind of insane, especially if you take into account all the abuse that this thing has been through over the years. Now for the 10th scale Slash, this is still a crazy durable truck, but I have been through so many gears and drive shafts with this thing, it's not even funny. It's just, they break so often. I finally upgraded my drive shafts to extreme heavy duty drive shafts from Traxxas, which are a little bit more expensive, but as a result of that, they are much better than the stock ones. They're super durable. I haven't broken one of those yet. Now for the gears, I've been through a couple differentials, a ton of spur gears. The spur gear on this truck is actually broken right now. I still have to order a new one. I'll make a video about that at some point. But that's mostly due to the fact that it's brushless, and stuff in the drivetrain, when you have so much power going through it all the time, those things are just kind of bound to break at some point, if not very frequently, when you have a truck like this. I have also been through quite a few tires on this thing, but part of the reason for that is definitely because I like to slide it around a lot, especially like if the roads are a little bit damp after some light rain or something like that. It is so easy to slide it around on the roads. You can just get this thing sideways everywhere. It's just so much fun. Another thing to take into account if you're looking to buy one of these trucks is your skill level with RC cars. This car is much easier to drive than this car, especially because this one's brushless, it's a lot bigger, it's just a lot more difficult to throw around than this one. So if you're trying to buy your very first RC car, this one's going to be much easier to drive than this one, especially right when you're starting out. I've been driving RC cars like these for quite a few years now, and I still sometimes struggle to make the 10th scale Slash go where I want it to go. And I've got a lot of experience driving this car specifically, and other cars in the same kind of range as this one. But the Mini Slash is just a breeze to throw around. It does exactly what you tell it to. It handles nice, it just drives around so easily. Another big thing to consider if you want to buy one of these trucks is the space you have to drive in. If you've got a smaller space to drive or only access to smaller spaces to drive, not a lot of open places to go, then the 10th scale is not going to be the best option for you. But if you have access to lots of dirt, lots of open spaces, just big jumps and everything like that, then you will have a blast with this truck. Whereas in open big spaces with lots of big obstacles, lots of rough terrain, that's not going to be as much fun for the Mini Slash because it can't handle it all, and it feels a lot slower when you drive it out in the open. If you're driving this truck inside, it's much more exciting, much more crazy than driving outside on an open road. It feels so much faster indoors than it does outdoors. I hope this video helps you make a decision on which truck to buy. I do have links to both of these trucks as well as all the variants of the 10th scale Slash down in the description below. I also have a full playlist of each of these trucks specifically. You can check those out right here or right here if you want to see more videos about either one of these trucks. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you in the next one.